The crack of my bat echoed through Maplewood's sun-baked field, a clean hit that should have secured my spot as shortstop. But Title X had other plans. And now I, Ethan Carter, was benched, my glove abandoned in the dirt, while a girl who couldn't field a grounder took my place. In the suburban leagues of New Jersey, the new law meant to champion equality for girls in sports had unleashed chaos nobody predicted. At the professional level, separate but equal worked fine. But here, in our small town diamond, it was a mess. Title X let any girl try out for any team, and if she made the cut, she was in no debate. Yet the rules on protective gear didn't budge, forcing girls on boys' teams to wear cups they didn't need. Coach Harlan was livid, his shouts ringing in my ears as he learned his best players, including me, were sidelined to accommodate girls, some barely able to swing a bat. The district council's mandate crushed our shot at the regional championship, leaving me stewing in the bleachers, my dreams gathering dust alongside my glove. 3 days after the gut punch of being cut, Coach Harlan showed up at our split-level home on Cedar Lane. Dad ushered him into the living room, where the scent of Mom's lavender candles lingered. My parents and I sat on the worn leather couch, bracing for whatever he had to say. The coach's face split into a grin that was equal parts mischief and defiance. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and laid out a plan so wild it felt like a prank. I opened my mouth to shut it down, but Mom's hand on my knee stopped me cold, her silent signal to hear him out. Title X cuts both ways, Coach Harlan said, his voice low and conspiratorial. If girls can try out for boys' teams, then boys can try out for girls' teams. The law is about equality, right? So there's not a damn thing they can do to stop you. Dad's brow furrowed, his coffee mug pausing halfway to his lips. Hold up. You're saying Ethan should try out for a girls' team? Exactly, Harlan said, leaning back with a satisfied nod. They bumped him from our team. Why not flip the script? Give him a taste of their own medicine. Mom let out a giggle, her eyes darting between me and Dad. Oh, that's brilliant. It's so absurd it might actually work. I slouched deeper into the couch, my cheeks burning. Play on a girls' team? No way. I'd rather eat dirt than prance around in some girly sport. But the alternative was a summer stuck in the stands, watching my friends play while I sulked. Dad, who'd been grumbling about co-ed teams since the law passed, didn't need much convincing. His jaw tightened, and he turned to me, his voice firm. Which girls' teams are still holding tryouts? Volleyball, soccer, swim team, and the junior softball league, Harlan said, ticking them off on his fingers. Dad, come on, I groaned, my stomach twisting. This is insane. You want to compete or not? He shot back, his eyes boring into mine. Yeah, but... We'll talk it over, Dad said, cutting me off. Maybe Ethan'll do exactly what you're suggesting. Let's see how the district likes their own rules turned on him. Harlan left, his grin still lingering in my mind like a taunt. I slumped in my seat, my thoughts a jumbled mess. Volleyball sounded like a snooze too much standing around. Soccer? I barely knew how to kick a ball straight. Softball was for little kids, no chance. That left swimming. I'd been slicing through the water since I was 6, mastering every stroke from freestyle to butterfly. I could outpace anyone at the Maplewood Community Pool, girl or boy. But the thought of joining the girls' swim team made my skin crawl. Mom, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. If I try out for their swim team, do I have to wear a girl's swimsuit? She tilted her head, her brown curls bouncing. Maybe, honey. I don't know. But it's just fabric, it covers you up. Everyone'll know you're a boy. What's the big deal? The next morning, Mom drove me to the community pool, the air thick with chlorine and nervous chatter. A swarm of girls crowded the registration table, their laughter echoing off the tiled walls. I felt like a fish out of water, my sneakers squeaking as I trailed behind Mom. The woman at the table, Mrs. Larson, did a double-take when she saw me. Her glasses slipped down her nose as she stammered, then bolted to fetch the program director, Ms. Delaney. When Delaney arrived, her lips pursed like she'd bitten a lemon. What's this about? she demanded. Mom's voice was calm but steely. Title X. Girls can join boys' teams, so boys can join girls' teams. Ethan's here to try out, and you can't stop him. Delaney's eyes narrowed. But she knew the law. The backlash over Title X had been all over the local news, parents arguing at school board meetings, op-eds in the Maplewood Gazette. She couldn't refuse me without risking a lawsuit. Fine, she said through gritted teeth. He can try out. I changed in the boys' locker room, pulling on my usual swim trunks, and strode out to the pool. The girls' stares followed me, some giggling, others whispering. I ignored them, focusing on the water. When the whistle blew, I dove in, my body cutting through the lanes like a blade. I posted the fastest times of the day, freestyle, backstroke, you name it. By the end, I was panting but smug, sitting with Mom in the bleachers as the coaches narrowed the roster to 18. From that, they'd pick 12. I saw Delaney marching toward us, her clipboard clutched like a weapon, and braced myself. We've had complaints, she said, her voice clipped. Not about Ethan's eligibility, but his swimsuit. The girls wear one-pieces for a reason, less drag in the water. The extra material on his trunks gives him an edge. If he wants to stay in the running, he needs to try out again tomorrow, wearing the same suit as the girls. Mom didn't flinch. We're not prepared today. Tomorrow at 10? 10's fine, Delaney said, turning on her heel. In the car, I exploded. Mom, I'm not wearing a girl's swimsuit. This is humiliating. Ethan, you don't have a choice, she said, her tone gentle but firm. Unless you want to sit out the whole summer. You're too good to be benched. I crossed my arms, staring out the window as Maplewood's tree-lined streets blurred by. Then, to my horror, Mom pulled into the parking lot of a sporting goods store on Springfield Avenue. Before I could protest, she dragged me inside, past racks of soccer cleats and yoga mats, to the swimwear section. My face burned as she held up 3 girls' swimsuits, sleek, stretchy one-pieces in navy, black, and teal. Try these on, she said, shoving me toward the fitting room. I wanted to melt into the floor, but her no-nonsense look told me resistance was futile. I slipped into each one, the fabric hugging my skin like a second layer. Mom nodded approvingly at the black one, paid the $45, and we left, my dignity in tatters. The next morning, I changed in the boys' locker room, the black swimsuit feeling alien and constricting. I tugged at it, wishing I could disappear. Stepping onto the pool deck was like walking into a spotlight. All 18 girls were there, lining the edge of the pool, their eyes locked on me. Snickers rippled through the group, and one girl, Katie Simmons, let out a loud laugh. "Nice suit, Carter," she called. I clenched my jaw, my face hotter than a July sidewalk. At the whistle, I dove in, channeling my embarrassment into every stroke. The suit was snug, but it moved with me, and I clocked even faster times than the day before. When I climbed out, dripping and breathless, Mom gave me a proud nod from the stands. Delaney, her face a mask of barely concealed fury, announced the final roster. My name was on it. I'd made the team. Part of me wanted to whoop in triumph, but another part churned with unease. Was this worth it? The other girls shot me sidelong glances, some curious, others hostile. Delaney handed out practice schedules and event calendars, her voice flat. Okay, team, here's the deal. We've got our annual dinner the Friday after the competition. Our sponsors expect everyone to dress up best dresses, no exceptions. They'll provide escorts for the evening. I froze, the words sinking in like stones. A dress? My heart thudded as I glanced at Mom, who just raised an eyebrow, her lips twitching like she was fighting a smile. The pool deck seemed to tilt beneath me. I'd fought to prove myself in the water, but this was a whole new kind of challenge, and I wasn't sure I had the nerve to face it. Ms. Delaney's voice dripped with smug satisfaction as she clapped her hands to dismiss the team. So, get out those nice dresses and plan on having a great time. Mom's eyebrows shot up, her arms crossing tightly over her chest. Excuse me? What about my son? Delaney's smile was sharp, almost predatory. As you've so eloquently pointed out, Title X allows for co-ed sports, but it doesn't touch the team rules. Take the girls on the boys' teams forced to wear cups, right? Same principle here. Page 9 of the rulebook clearly states, all team members shall wear dresses or skirts to and from events, as well as at dinners and other official functions. Your son can either follow the rules or quit. It's his choice. My stomach dropped, the world tilting as her words sank in. Me, in a dress? I stared at Mom, my eyes wide with panic, silently begging her to shut this down. Behind me, the girls' laughter bubbled up, sharp and mocking, slicing through the humid air of the Maple.Concurrent community pool. Mom thanked Delaney coolly, snatching the rulebook from her hand, and nudged me toward the locker room. Go change, Ethan! I stormed off, the girls' giggles trailing me like a swarm of bees. By the time I met Mom at the car, my anger had boiled over, my fists clenched tight. I'm not doing it, Mom. No way I'm wearing a dress. This is insane. She didn't respond. Her lips pressed into a thin line as she started the engine. The drive home was silent, the rulebook sitting like a bomb in her lap. When we pulled into our driveway on Cedar Lane, she finally spoke. Let's talk inside. Dad was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of chili, the spicy aroma filling the house. Mom handed him the rulebook, her voice steady as she recounted Delaney's ultimatum. At first, Dad's face darkened, his spoon pausing mid-stir. Then, to my horror, he started to chuckle, a low, rumbling sound that grew into a full laugh. This law's turned everything upside down, hasn't it? But here's the thing. Ethan, the only way to show how ridiculous these rules are is to follow them. Play their game, make a point. Those girls on the boys' teams are stuck with stupid rules, so Delaney's got you cornered. She's banking on you quitting. If you do, she kicks you off the team, no questions asked. But if you stick it out, Mom jumped in, her eyes glinting with mischief. Remember that Halloween when you were 8? You went as a little girl, with that frilly dress and pigtails. You were adorable, Ethan. Maybe this could work. My jaw dropped. I don't want to wear a dress, Dad. This is humiliating. Then Delaney boots you, he said, his tone firm but not unkind. And I can't do a thing to stop her. I glared at him, my heart pounding. You want me to do this, don't you? I want you to fight for what's right, he said, setting the spoon down. If that means wearing a dress to change this dumb law, then yeah, I think you should. The guys'll laugh me out of Maplewood. Maybe, Dad said, leaning against the counter. But they're not thrilled about girls on their teams either. They might get why you're doing this. Mom clapped her hands, her grin widening. I'll take some measurements, and we'll get you sorted. This is going to be interesting. I groaned, sinking into a chair as my world spun out of control. After lunch, Mom returned from a shopping trip, her arms laden with bags from a boutique on Springfield Avenue. She marched me to my room, her energy relentless. Strip to your boxers, she said, dumping the bags on my bed. My protest died in my throat as she pulled out a pair of floral-patterned panties and handed them to me. Put these on, trust me. I hesitated, my face burning, but her no-nonsense stare left no room for argument. The panties felt soft but alien, hugging my skin in a way that made me squirm. Next came a padded bra, which she stuffed with small gel inserts, giving me the faintest hint of a chest. Your hair needs work, she muttered, tugging me to her vanity. She handed me a pair of sheer pantyhose, guiding me through the awkward process of rolling them up my legs. A cream-colored slip followed, cool and silky against my skin, and then the dress, a navy sheath, she called it, that clung to my frame and ended just above my knees. She slipped a pair of low-heeled black flats onto my feet, their leather pinching slightly. Just a touch of makeup, she said, brushing on foundation, a hint of blush, and a soft pink lipstick that tasted faintly of strawberries. She clipped dangling earrings onto my lobes, the weight unfamiliar, and brushed out my shaggy brown hair, taming it into a sleek, feminine style. Go look in the mirror, honey, she said, stepping back. I shuffled to the full-length mirror in her bedroom, my heart hammering. The reflection staring back wasn't me, it was someone else. Someone who looked eerily like Sophie Miller, the girl across the street. The dress accentuated my slim frame, the padded bra creating a subtle curve. My legs, elongated by the pantyhose, looked delicate. I swallowed hard, my voice barely a whisper. This is worse than I thought. It's perfect, Mom said, her voice warm. But your hair needs a professional touch. We're going to my salon to get it trimmed something girly but versatile, so you can still brush it like a boy when you're not at team events. I opened my mouth to argue, but she was already grabbing her keys. The idea of stepping outside like this made my stomach lurch. Mom, I can't go out there. You have to, Ethan, she said, her tone softening. This is what it takes to stay on the team. If you want to quit, I'll help you change. But if you're in, we're doing this right. Resigned, I let her lead me to the front door. My heart stopped as I spotted Sophie Miller on her bike, pedaling across the street. I bolted to the car, yanking the door shut, but Sophie's eyes locked onto me, her mouth dropping open. Mom slid into the driver's seat, chuckling. Relax, honey. You look fine. The salon was a blur of floral scents and buzzing clippers. The stylist, a cheerful woman named Carla, trimmed and layered my hair, shaping it into a soft bob that framed my face. She sprayed it with enough hairspray to withstand a hurricane, and when she spun me around to the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The drive home was quiet, my mind reeling. As we pulled into the driveway, I saw Sophie sitting on our porch swing, her bike propped against the railing. Oh, look, Sophie's here, Mom said, her voice far too chipper. Mom, she'll see me, I hissed, slumping lower in the seat. So? You look great. Just explain why you're dressed up. She'll get it. Yeah, right, I muttered, climbing out of the car like I was heading to my execution. Sophie's eyes widened as she hopped off the swing, her ponytail bouncing. Whoa, Ethan! Molly Parker said you're on her swim team and you have to dress like a girl or get kicked off. Is that why you're in a dress? I sighed, tugging at the hem of the sheath. Yeah, some stupid law. I don't have a choice. She tilted her head, studying me. You look kinda cute, you know. And Ethan's a unisex name works for a girl, too. My dad named me after Ethan Allen, the revolutionary guy, I grumbled. Sophie grinned. Bet my brother Jake'll think you're cute, too. I'm only doing this because I have to, okay? I don't like it. Just then, Dad's pickup rumbled into the driveway. He stepped out, his work boots crunching on the gravel, and froze when he saw me. His eyes widened, then softened. Well, damn, Ethan. You don't look dorky at all. You're pretty, honestly. Dad, I groaned, wanting to sink into the ground. Mom called from the kitchen. Dinner's ready. Let's eat on the deck. We settled around the picnic table, the evening air warm and thick with the scent of grilled chicken and corn on the cob. The dress felt strange, my legs exposed under the table, the lipstick still clinging to my lips. My new haircut shifted with every breeze, tickling my neck. I thought it couldn't get worse, but then Sophie and her brother Jake, my best friend, strolled onto the deck, their sneakers thumping against the wood. I'll clean up, honey, Mom said, stacking plates. You stay with your friends. Jake raised an eyebrow, his gaze sweeping over me. This because of that law? Yeah, I muttered. I joined the girls' swim team, and now I have to wear a dress. Stupid rule. At least you don't look like Clara Thompson, he said, smirking. Clara's nice, Sophie snapped. She can't help how she looks. Jake shrugged. I'm heading to Noah's house. Want to come, Ethan? Like this? I gestured to the dress, my voice incredulous. Why not? It's just the law, right? Not like you're enjoying it. Watch it, I warned, but his grin was playful, not mean. Just kidding. Ask your mom if it's okay. Mom gave the green light, and before I knew it, I was walking down Cedar Lane with Sophie and Jake. Jake led the way, his lanky frame cutting through the twilight, while Sophie and I fell into step behind him. The heels forced me to take shorter steps, and I found myself matching Sophie's rhythm, my arms swinging in sync with hers. It felt natural somehow, the way the dress swayed with each stride. I shook off the thought, focusing on the familiar hum of crickets and the distant bark of a dog. Maybe Jake was right. Maybe the guys would get why I was doing this. But as we approached Noah's house, my stomach knotted. This was my fight, my way of proving a point. Yet standing there, in a dress that hugged my body and heels that clicked on the pavement, I felt a flicker of something new, a quiet strength, a defiance I hadn't expected. I wasn't just Ethan Carter anymore. I was something more, and I wasn't sure what that meant yet. Frank's jaw practically hit the floor when he saw me standing in Noah's living room. But instead of laughing, he scrambled to clear a spot on the couch, nearly tripping over a game controller in his haste. "Here, sit," he said, his cheeks pink. Noah, sprawled in a beanbag, just raised an eyebrow, while Sophie and Jake grabbed sodas from the mini fridge. We settled in, the hum of a baseball game on the TV filling the awkward silence. The four of us started talking about the chaos Title X had unleashed girls on boys' teams, boys on girls' teams, and the absurdity of it all. But Frank, in his typical foot-in-mouth way, steered the conversation into dangerous territory, setting himself up for regret that would haunt him later that summer. "At least you're pretty, Ethan," he said, leaning forward with a grin. "I mean, if you gotta dress like a girl, being pretty's a bonus, right?" Sophie rolled her eyes, popping the tab on her soda. "He looks like he looks, Frank. Chill." "Yeah, not like Clara Thompson," Jake added, smirking. "Oh, come on," Sophie shot back. "Clara's sweet. She can't help how she looks." "Clara'd scare a tree," Frank muttered, laughing at his own joke. "Guys, stop it!" Sophie snapped, standing up. "Come on, Ethan, let's head home." "Wait!" Frank jumped up, brushing Dorito crumbs off his shirt. "I'll walk with you." I don't know how he pulled it off, but suddenly I was walking beside Frank, his lanky frame towering over me, while Sophie and Jake led the way. The evening air was warm, carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass from a neighbor's lawn. My heels clicked softly on the sidewalk, the navy sheath swaying with each step. Frank kept sneaking glances, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. When we reached my house on Cedar Lane, Mom's voice called from the porch. "Ethan, come inside, please." I stepped into the living room and froze. Ms. Delaney, the swim team director, sat on our couch, her posture rigid, a cup of tea untouched on the coffee table. Her eyes swept over me, and she let out a heavy sigh, like she'd just lost a bet. "I didn't think you'd actually do it." Mom's smile was serene but edged with steel. "As you can see, Ethan's turned out to be a very lovely young lady." Delaney's lips twitched, her gaze lingering on my dress. "I suppose this means she'll follow all the team rules." "Except one," Mom said, her voice firm. "For obvious reasons, Ethan won't need to use sanitary products. You can't enforce that rule for the girls, let alone him. Since he doesn't have periods, it's irrelevant." Delaney's jaw tightened, but she nodded. "Fair enough. I won't press the issue. I actually came to invite your family to a casual get-together at my house tomorrow. 2:00. Here's the address." She handed Mom a slip of paper, her expression unreadable. "I'll see you there." Mom showed her out, then turned to me, her eyes sparkling. "Looks like we've got more shopping to do. You'll need more underwear, a few skirts, tops, and shoes to get through the season. Let's hit the mall first thing tomorrow. We'll be back in time for you to change for the party." Dad, still adjusting to the sight of me in a dress, seemed to flinch every time he caught my reflection. But when Mom and I returned from the mall the next day, laden with bags from stores like Forever 21 and H&M, he wasn't prepared for the next level. I changed into a new outfit, high-waisted denim shorts that hugged my thighs, a white tee with a glittery heart stitched on the chest, and a pair of white sneakers. Mom had insisted on upgrading my look, so we'd bought new gel inserts for the bra, slightly larger to fill out an A-cup, and she'd taken me to a nail salon for a quick manicure clear polish with a subtle shimmer. My makeup was sharper now, a light foundation with a touch of mascara to make my eyes pop. When I stepped into the kitchen, Dad's spoon clattered into his cereal bowl. "Jesus, Ethan," he muttered, shaking his head. You're... you're something else, Mom beamed. He's perfect. Let's go, Delaney's waiting. Dad drove us to Delaney's house, a tidy colonial on Orchard Road, its front yard dotted with balloons. The swim team girls were already there, lounging on the deck in sundresses and shorts. They froze when they saw me, clearly expecting me to show up in jeans or some half-hearted attempt at compliance. Instead, I stood there in my shorts and tee, my bob haircut bouncing as I moved, looking every bit like one of them. Molly Parker's mouth dropped open. You look amazing, right? Greta Sullivan cut in, grinning. Better than half the girls here. Marilyn Chen laughed, tossing her braid. No lie, Ethan, you're killing it. Let's grab drinks, Greta said, pulling me toward a cooler filled with lemonade and iced tea. My parents drifted to a table with the other adults, their voices blending into the hum of grown-up chatter. I stayed with the girls, who ranged from 12 to 14, most hovering around my age. Some had more developed figures, but most, like me, were rocking what Mom called a full A cup. They all knew I was a boy, but as we sprawled on the grass, sipping lemonade, the lines blurred. We joked about school, swapped stories about annoying teachers, and debated the best fast food fries. The conversation shifted to clothes skirts versus jeans, crop tops versus hoodies, and I found myself chiming in, surprising even myself with how easily I kept up. Then the topic turned to boys, and the air grew charged. The girls giggled about crushes, who liked who'd gotten a text from some guy at school. When their eyes turned to me, I froze, my plastic cup sweating in my hand. Frank, I guess, I blurted, my face heating up. He walked me home last night. Molly leaned forward, her eyes wide. Did he try to kiss you? No, I said too quickly, and they all laughed. He will, Greta said, smirking. Guys always do. Or they try, Marilyn added, rolling her eyes. Kelly Nguyen tilted her head, studying me. You look way better than I expected, Ethan. Like, no offense, but I thought you'd be awkward about it. It freaked me out at first, I admitted, tugging at my shorts. Seeing myself like this? Weird as hell. Your haircut's super cute, Sophie said, reaching out to touch a strand. Your mom's idea? Yeah, she said it'd be low maintenance, I said, shrugging. We devoured hot dogs slathered in mustard, the conversation flowing like the summer breeze. By the end of the afternoon, I was one of the group, my boyhood fading into the background. They didn't care, or maybe they forgot. Greta and Kelly swapped phone numbers with me, promising to text about practice. As we piled into Dad's car, I was buzzing, the weight of the shorts and the glittery tee feeling normal, somehow. I barely noticed how I was dressed, too caught up in the thrill of belonging. The next day was swim practice, and I showed up in a denim skirt and a plain gray tee, my nails still shimmering faintly. In the boys' locker room, I changed into my team swimsuit, tucking myself carefully to keep things discreet. The gel inserts stayed in place, giving me the same silhouette as the girls. When I stepped onto the pool deck, there wasn't a hint of Ethan the boy, just a swimmer who looked like everyone else. We drilled for 2 hours, perfecting our strokes and dives, the water cool against my skin. Afterward, as we toweled off, Greta jogged over, her ponytail dripping. Hey, Ethan, want to come to my house this afternoon? Hang out? I glanced at Mom, who was waiting by the bleachers. Can I, Mom? She nodded, checking her watch. Sure, but be home by 6 for dinner. Thanks, I said, grabbing my bag. Greta's house was a short walk, a brick ranch on Elm Street. She was Frank's cousin, a fact she mentioned offhand, as we kicked off our shoes in her foyer. In her bedroom, she casually peeled off her tee and shimmied out of her skirt, swapping them for loose shorts and a tank top. My brain short-circuited at the sight, her confidence, her ease, like it was no big deal. My body tried to react, but the tuck kept things under control, though my mind was racing. Greta didn't notice, flopping onto her bed with a grin. Frank's totally into you, you know. Not just the walking you home thing. Like, into you? I laughed, shaking my head. Yeah, well, he's out of luck. You sure? Greta propped herself on an elbow, her eyes sharp. You're already rocking this girl thing. Look, sound, act like one. You're pretty, Ethan. We practice almost every day, so you'll be dressed like this all summer. Why not have some fun with it? Frank's not the worst, and he's kinda cute. I'm not a girl, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. Greta raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. You're more of one than you think. All the girls see it. You like this, Ethan. You're just not ready to admit it. It's the law, I insisted, crossing my arms. That's it. Right, she said, her tone dripping with skepticism. I leaned back against her desk, the denim skirt shifting against my thighs. Her words gnawed at me, stirring something I wasn't ready to face. I'd started this to prove a point, to fight a stupid rule. But standing in Greta's room, my nails painted, my hair styled, my body molded into a shape that felt both foreign and familiar, I couldn't ignore the truth creeping in. I didn't hate this, not entirely. And that scared me more than any dress ever could. Greta's words hung in the air, sharp and unrelenting. Okay, if you say so, but we don't believe it. We? I asked, my voice catching. The whole team, she said, her grin teasing but her eyes serious. She spent the rest of the afternoon prodding me to admit I liked dressing as a girl, but I held my ground, refusing to give in. Her mom drove me home just before 6, the setting sun casting long shadows across Cedar Lane. Over the next 2 weeks, swim practice became a daily rhythm drills, laps, and the cool embrace of the water. But outside the pool, the pressure was building. Frank, Jake, and a handful of other guys started showing up to watch us practice, their voices carrying from the bleachers. Greta, never one to miss an opportunity, leaned in close one day, her towel slung over her shoulder. Frank's got his eyes on you, Ethan. Everyone can see it. I rolled my eyes, adjusting my skirt as we headed to the locker room. I'm not a girl, Greta. He's wasting his time. She just smirked, unconvinced. The attention was impossible to ignore, though. Frank's gaze followed me, lingering when I climbed out of the pool, my swimsuit clinging to my skin. I did my best to shrug it off, focusing on the water, on the rhythm of my strokes. But the whispers from the team, the sidelong glances, made it clear they saw something I wasn't ready to acknowledge. Our first competition arrived, a sunny Saturday at the Maplewood Community Pool. The stands were packed with parents, classmates, and curious locals, the air buzzing with anticipation. I slipped into the boys' locker room, changed into my team swimsuit, and joined the girls at the starting blocks. My best event was the butterfly, and I poured everything into it, my arms slicing through the water, my heart pounding. I touched the wall a fraction of a second ahead of Molly Parker, claiming first place by a hair. The crowd roared, but as I climbed out, catching my breath, a murmur rippled through the stands. Someone had spread the word. I was a boy competing on the girls' team. A protest erupted, led by a red-faced parent who argued it wasn't fair, that my male advantage skewed the results. I stood there, dripping, as officials huddled with coaches, flipping through rulebooks and Title X guidelines. The claim was nonsense I'd barely won, and my times were in line with the girls. After heated debate, they upheld my victory, but the damage was done. By evening, the story had exploded. Local news ran a segment, flashing a photo of me in my swimsuit, my bob haircut slicked back, looking every bit like one of the girls. The Maplewood Gazette plastered my face on the front page, the headline screaming, "Boy or Girl, Title X Sparks Controversy." Social media lit up, some calling me a trailblazer, others insisting I was a girl pretending to be a boy to game the system. The worst were the hate letters that started arriving at our house, venomous notes accusing me of perversion, of undermining real girls. Mom and Dad screened them, but I saw enough to feel the sting. The next day, Dad insisted I switch back to my usual clothes jeans, a t-shirt, no bra, no tuck. Standing in my room, I pulled on my old sneakers, but the mirror felt wrong. My body, free of the snug panties and padded bra, seemed shapeless, incomplete. I shook it off, chalking it up to habit, but the unease lingered. Dad, never one to back down, was adamant I stay on the team. "Those people are unhinged," he said, his voice tight. "You're not quitting because of them." The controversy only grew hotter. A new figure emerged, a self-righteous pastor named Reverend Harold Grayson, dubbed Goody Two-Shoes by Jake. Grayson launched a crusade, preaching to anyone who'd listen about the dangers of my presence on the girls' team. At a town hall, broadcast live on local TV, he questioned the safety of the girls, suggesting my male nature would inevitably lead to trouble. Then, in a twist, he pivoted, wondering aloud if I was the one at risk dressing as a girl. Was I luring boys into unnatural attraction? His words were a match to dry grass, igniting outrage and fear. Dad was furious, pacing the kitchen, but free speech tied his hands. I was trapped in the eye of the storm, my face inescapable on newsstands and ex-posts. Everyone, classmates, neighbors, strangers across the country had an opinion. I wanted to quit, to crawl into a hole and disappear. But then Ms. Delaney showed up at our house, her usual sternness softened by something like respect. "Ethan, you started this to make a point," she said, sitting across from me at the dining table. "You're showing how absurd these rules are. If you quit now, they win. Stay. Finish what you started." My parents echoed her, though Dad left the final call to me. "You've got our support either way," he said, his hand on my shoulder. That night, my phone buzzed nonstop, Greta, Jake, Frank, Molly, and half the team, all begging me to show up at the next practice, where Grayson had announced he'd make an appearance. "Tell that creep to shove it," Greta texted, followed by a string of angry emojis. I stared at the ceiling, torn between fear and defiance. The morning of the practice, Mom woke me early, her voice gentle but firm. "You need to feel strong today, Ethan." She handed me a new outfit, a pleated navy skirt, crisp and tailored, paired with a white blouse that felt soft against my skin. In the bathroom, she carefully glued small breast forms to my chest, their weight subtle but grounding. "These are better than the inserts," she said, adjusting my bra. "You'll feel more confident." I dressed alone, the skirt swishing as I moved, the blouse hugging my frame. I added a touch of mascara and lip gloss, my bob falling neatly into place. Looking in the mirror, I didn't see Ethan the boy or even the girl I'd been playing at. I saw someone new, someone ready to fight. Dad took the day off, his jaw set as he drove us to the pool. "I'll handle Grayson," he said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. When we arrived, I stepped onto the pool deck and froze. The stands were a sea of navy skirts and white blouses. Greta, Molly, Sophie, their moms, even Jake, Frank, and a few dads, all dressed to match me. Frank's hairy legs poked out from his skirt, and Jake's looked more like a kilt, but the message was clear. They were with me. My throat tightened, a mix of gratitude and disbelief swelling in my chest. Ms. Delaney waved me to the bleachers, where I sat among my supporters, my skirt blending into the crowd. Grayson arrived, his suit crisp, his face smug as he strutted to the center of the stands, a microphone in hand. "Who is this Ethan Carter?" he bellowed, scanning the crowd. "I am," came a deep voice, Mr. Sullivan, Greta's dad, standing tall. "No, I am," Jake said, his voice steady. "Me," Molly called, her chin high. One by one, voices rang out, a chorus of defiance. For 20 minutes, person after person claimed to be me, their words overlapping, drowning Grayson in confusion. His face reddened, his composure cracking, as he realized he couldn't single me out. In frustration, he launched into a sermon, condemning the team, my family, and me most of all, calling my actions a vile mockery of morality. That's when Mr. Sullivan, still in his skirt, marched down from the stands, his work boots thudding. "You don't belong here," he said, towering over Grayson. "I have the right," Grayson shouted, clutching his Bible. "To tear down a kid?" Sullivan shot back. "You're here for headlines, nothing more. I'm guiding this child back to righteousness. You're meddling in our fight against a stupid law. Take your sorry self out of here, Reverend, or I'll teach you to swim." Are you threatening me? Grayson sputtered. You bet, Sullivan said, his voice low and dangerous. I'm Ethan. We're all Ethan. Get out before I lose my temper. The news crews, stationed at the edge of the pool, caught every word, their cameras rolling. Grayson stormed off, his face a mask of fury. Practice was canceled, but the energy lingered, electric and triumphant. That afternoon, my house became a hub, friends piling onto our deck, still wearing their skirts and blouses. Jake's kilt drew laughs, Frank's hairy legs earned playful jabs, and a few guys, like Noah, seemed almost comfortable in their outfits. Mom and some moms whipped up a picnic burgers, coleslaw, and lemonade while we sprawled on the grass, debating what Grayson would do next. He's not done, Greta said, popping a chip into her mouth. But whatever it is, it'll be epic. That night, the confrontation aired on national news, clips of Sullivan's standoff going viral. Commentators roasted Grayson, calling his campaign a publicity stunt. The next day's Gazette ran a photo of the stands, a wall of navy and white, with the headline, Maplewood Rallies for Ethan. The hate mail slowed, replaced by letters of support from across the country. I sat on my bed, my skirt still on, scrolling through X-posts praising our stand. I'd started this to prove a point, to expose a flawed law. But somewhere along the way, I'd found something else, a part of myself I hadn't known existed. The skirt, the blouse, the way I moved through the world. Now it wasn't just a protest anymore. It was me, or at least a piece of me, and I wasn't ready to let it go. Not yet. The news of Reverend Grayson's lawsuit hit like a thunderbolt. He'd filed to block my participation on the swim team, and the case was set to be heard the very next day in the Essex County Courthouse, the urgency driven by the firestorm surrounding Title X. Subpoenas arrived that afternoon, crisp white envelopes bearing my name and my parents'. Dad's face reddened as he read his, while Mom's eyes blazed with a fury I rarely saw. Over dinner, they hatched a plan so bold it bordered on reckless. We're not backing down, Mom said, her fork stabbing the air. Tomorrow, Ethan, we're going all in. The next morning, she drove me to her salon on Springfield Avenue. The staff, sensing the gravity, closed the shop early, pulling the shades to shield us from prying eyes. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of hairspray and wax. Mom paced, her heels clicking on the tile, as the stylists descended on me. They stripped every hair from my body below my eyebrows, the warm wax stinging, but leaving my skin smooth. My nails and toes were filed and painted a soft coral, shimmering under the salon lights. They trimmed my bob, adding subtle layers for volume, and set it with a glossy finish. The makeup artist worked meticulously foundation to even my tone, a sweep of eyeliner to sharpen my eyes, and a pink gloss that made my lips pop. When they spun me toward the mirror, I barely recognized the girl staring back. She was polished, confident, and undeniably me. For the first time, I didn't just look the part, I felt it, a quiet thrill humming beneath my skin. At home, Mom led me to my room, her movements brisk. I bought this for the team dinner, she said, pulling a dress from a garment bag. But today's the day. I stepped into the bathroom, taping myself down with care, the routine now second nature. Back in my room, Mom helped me slip into the dress, a white eyelet number, knee-length, with short sleeves, and a fitted bodice that hugged my frame. The round neckline framed a delicate gold pendant she fastened around my neck. She added dainty gold earrings, one of her own rings, and low white heels that clicked softly on the hardwood. When I stepped into the living room, Dad's coffee mug froze mid-air. His eyes widened, but he said nothing, just nodded, his silence louder than words. The courthouse in Newark was a madhouse, reporters swarming the steps like ants. Cameras flashed as we approached, but Dad barreled through, his broad shoulders parting the crowd. A court officer whisked us inside, the chaos fading behind heavy oak doors. The courtroom was packed, a low hum of voices filling the space until the judge entered. Judge Amelia Torres, about Mom's age, with sharp eyes, and a no-nonsense air, took her seat and silenced the room with a single rap of her gavel. She called Dad first, her questions probing but fair. He explained how Title X had sidelined me from the baseball team, how the swim team was my way to fight back, and why he supported my choice to comply with the rules, dress and all. Mom followed, her voice steady as she detailed the steps we'd taken to respect the team's protocols. Ms. Delaney and coaches from other affected teams testified next, painting a picture of a system thrown into chaos by rigid, poorly thought-out rules. Then came Reverend Grayson. He took the stand, his voice booming with righteous indignation. He called me a travesty, accused me of joining the girls' team to sneak peeks in the locker room, or, worse, to entice boys into sin. The air in the courtroom shifted, a collective intake of breath. I glanced at Judge Torres, her eyebrows knitting together, a flicker of disdain crossing her face. She leaned forward, her tone icy. "You're not a resident of New Jersey, are you, sir?" "No, Your Honor," Grayson admitted. "Title X is a federal law, affecting every state. Why are you here targeting this child instead of elsewhere?" Grayson puffed up. "This child is being coerced into a dangerous path. It's my duty to intervene." "You believe the parents can't handle this?" Torres pressed. "Clearly they cannot," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. Torres dismissed him with a curt nod. "Thank you. Ethan Carter, please take the stand." My heels echoed as I walked to the witness box, the white dress swishing softly. Grayson's lawyer pounced, his questions relentless. He grilled me on why I'd joined the team, how I felt about dressing as a girl, what my friends thought. He brought up the day Greta changed in front of me, twisting it to sound scandalous. I answered honestly, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. But when he asked how I felt about appearing in court as a girl, something snapped. "I did this to show how stupid it is to force boys and girls onto each other's teams," I said, my voice rising. "Yeah, I like how I look now. I hated it at first, but I don't mind it anymore. My friends get why I'm doing this. They know it's about the law, not me trying to be something I'm not." The lawyer opened his mouth, but Torres cut him off. "That's enough. You may step down, Ethan." She leaned back, her pen tapping her notepad, then spoke. "The issue here is that Ethan is not a girl, yet it's evident no one would mistake her for a boy in this context. Title X is clear, and I can't alter it. However, if the only barrier is nomenclature, I can address that." Her words for Grayson were scathing. She tore into him for humiliating me, disrupting the sports community, and using vile innuendo to smear my character. "You're a carpetbagger," she said, her voice like steel. "Chasing headlines, not justice." Turning to me, she softened. "Please stand, Ethan, with your parents." I rose, Mom and Dad flanking me, their hands warm on my shoulders. Torres continued, "You've committed no crime, only sought to challenge an unjust rule. The sole impediment to your participation is your designation. Therefore, I order that you, Ethan Carter, be granted the full rights and obligations of a girl in this context, to be recognized as such until this court rules otherwise." The gavel fell, and the courtroom erupted. I sat, dazed, as Mom's breath hitched, her eyes wide with shock. Dad's hand tightened on my shoulder, his face unreadable. Grayson and his supporters stormed out, facing a gauntlet of cameras. Our court officer led us through a back exit, sparing us the media frenzy. In the car, Mom's agitation grew, her fingers drumming the dashboard. At home, Dad flicked on the TV, and a news anchor's voice filled the room. With the judge's ruling, Ethan Carter is now legally recognized as a girl. This means she'll be treated as such in all contexts, school, sports, everywhere, unless the court reverses it. Even if Ethan returns to presenting as a boy, her legal status remains female. Dad's eyes met Mom's, then mine, the weight of it sinking in. I stood in the living room, the white dress still pristine, my coral nails catching the light. The ruling was meant to protect my place on the team, but it had shifted something deeper. School loomed just weeks away, and I'd be walking into Maplewood High as a girl, legally, undeniably. Part of me wanted to rip off the dress, to reclaim the boy I'd been. But another part, the part that felt alive in the mirror that morning, wasn't ready to let go. I'd started this to fight a law, but now I was fighting for myself, and I didn't know where that would lead. Dad sank into his worn recliner, the leather creaking under his weight, and let out a heavy sigh. "Well, it looks like we have a daughter now." "Dad!" I groaned, my voice sharp, the white eyelet dress still clinging to my frame. He rubbed his temples, his eyes weary but resolute. "This ruling means the school's got no choice. As a girl, you'll have to follow their dress code: skirts, blouses, dresses, the whole deal." "Congratulations, Ethan. You're legally a girl now." "Damn it." Mom cut in, her voice urgent, her hands twisting the hem of her sweater. "Going back to court would only fuel that Reverend Grayson's nonsense, and we can't let that happen, Ethan. So many people have rallied behind you: friends, neighbors, even strangers. We can't ask the court to undo this now. Not after everything." She paused, her gaze softening as it settled on me. "Having a daughter won't be so different from these past few months. You've adapted so well, better than I could have imagined. Let's make the best of it and move forward." I stood frozen, the weight of her words sinking in. "Does this mean I have to dress like a girl all the time?" "Yes, honey," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "It does." I swallowed hard, my heart racing. "Okay." Dad's eyebrows shot up, his head tilting. "You sound almost eager, Ethan." "Well," I trailed off, my cheeks warming. The truth was too tangled to unravel right there, a mix of defiance and something deeper, something I wasn't ready to name. Mom's eyes narrowed, a knowing smile tugging at her lips. "I see. Maybe we should get used to the idea that we have a daughter now, and do our best to support her. But you," she said, pointing at me, "you'll find being a girl isn't all glamour and giggles. Go change and hang up that dress properly this time." From that day forward, Mom held firm, insisting I follow the court's order to the letter. No more jeans or sneakers. No more slipping back into the boy I'd been. At first, it felt like a cage, but as the weeks turned into months, I learned to navigate my new reality. I mastered my hair, coaxing my bob into soft waves with a curling iron, and got the hang of makeup subtle foundation, a flick of eyeliner, a dab of gloss. I studied the way girls moved, their gestures and cadences, mirroring them until they felt like mine. Anything less would have turned me into a caricature, a punchline, and I refused to let that happen. Greta, Sophie, and I grew inseparable, our afternoons filled with laughter and secrets shared over iced coffees at the diner on Springfield Avenue. Frank, meanwhile, found his match in Megan Harper, a cheerful sophomore who didn't mind his clumsy charm, leaving me quietly relieved. When school started at Maplewood High, the administration was ready. My enrollment listed me as a girl, and the dress code: skirts or dresses, no exceptions, was non-negotiable. I didn't hide my past, but I didn't advertise it either, letting my navy pleated skirt and white blouse speak for themselves. Most kids accepted me as I was, the girl I presented, though a few whispered doubts in the hallways. For the most part, I blended in, joining study groups, cheering at football games, and slipping into the rhythm of high school life. Dad's initial shock faded, though he had his moments, like the time he barged into my room while I was changing, catching me mid-tuck. My body, carefully sculpted to look feminine, left him stammering, his face red as he backed out. When my beard started to peek through, Mom arranged laser hair removal, a $200 session that left my face smooth and unquestionable. No one ever saw a hint of stubble. 2 years passed, and by 16, I was just another junior, my boyhood a distant memory to most. Reverend Grayson vanished from the headlines, his crusade fizzling into obscurity. The Title X uproar quieted, replaced by newer controversies. I melted into my circle of friends, fully the girl I'd become. Dating, though, was off limits until 16, a rule Mom and Dad enforced with an iron grip. Most of my friends were in the same boat, so I didn't mind much, content with late-night group chats and mall trips. Then Jake Sullivan asked me out. He'd shot up to 6 feet, his lanky frame filling out, and as Sophie's brother, he'd always been protective, treating me like an extension of his sister. We went to a movie at the South Orange Theater, a rom-com I barely followed, too aware of his arm brushing mine in the dark. When he walked me home, the air cool against my bare legs, he paused on my porch and kissed me goodnight, a soft, tentative press of lips that sent my heart skittering. It wasn't the trauma I'd feared. Instead, it felt like a quiet confirmation, a piece of myself clicking into place. I'd started this journey to prove a point, to expose a flawed law, but somewhere along the way, I'd become the girl I was meant to be. Now, standing on the cusp of 17, I have new points to prove. As a girl, I'm determined to show I'm worthy of the title not just to others, but to myself. The swim team, the courtroom, the skirts, they were stepping stones to a truth I hadn't expected. I'm Ethan Carter, but I'm also something more, and I'm ready to embrace every challenge that comes with it.